Hey everyone, so 1D&D, they are now in the planning phase. We got a playtest, was like a week or two ago, and it included character origins. And now we have the survey. It just came open. It's September 1st right now, and this survey has just become available. And I actually had a viewer request that I go over the survey in a video, so I'm going to do that. So let's take the survey. I haven't taken a look at this at all yet. All right. Would you like to rate the material presented in Character Origins? Yeah, I wouldn't have clicked this link if I didn't. What was your first edition of D&D that you played? Not sure why that's relevant, but it was basic. All right. Which of the following character origin options have you playtested? You will be seeing on September 16th, you'll see a video come up on my channel where I playtest with 4 players, the new playtest material. And so I was DMing, so I didn't personally play any of them, but I saw some of them in play. I saw the human in play, and I saw the halfling in play. I think that was maybe it. I think it was maybe 2 humans, 2 halflings. I might be remembering wrong, but I think that was it. How satisfied were you overall with the character origin options as presented in the article? So I can choose very dissatisfied, dissatisfied, satisfied, very satisfied, or don't know. I think the way I'm going to handle this is if I think that the version they presented is an improvement over what's in the player's handbook or a current player's handbook, I think I've got to be satisfied or very satisfied with that. I think it would. Here's how I'm going to do it. So if I am unsatisfied with the current version in the player's handbook, and they made it significantly better or more clear or whatever, then I will be very satisfied. If I was satisfied with the current player's handbook version and they made it better yet, I will be very satisfied. If I was satisfied with the current player's handbook version and I'm about the same on this one, I'll be satisfied. And if I think that it was something that needed to be better and it isn't, that's when I'm going to be dissatisfied. So that's going to be kind of my guidelines here. And so human, I'm very satisfied. I think, yeah, so the way human works now is they get a bonus feat, and that feat has to be a first level feat. I think that is better than both the variant human and the regular human from our current player's handbook. Because you get that flexibility of the feat, it really gives you something special, but it limits the power level of that. Because currently, variant human is probably more powerful than the other races because they can select any feat. So I thought that was a good change. Ardling is new content, so I can't really compare it to the current player's handbook. Overall, I thought it looked okay, and I'll say I'm satisfied with it. One thing I liked is they have wings, but they didn't give them unlimited flight. They gave them this limited version of flight that I think would work much better at low-level tables. So, I was pretty happy with it. The Dragonborn, this one, I will say I'm dissatisfied with because I am dissatisfied with the current player's handbook Dragonborn, and the things that really bothered me weren't fixed. Like, I know a lot of people complain that Dragonborn didn't get dark vision, now they do. But what really bothers me is if I play a Dragonborn, I want to use my breath weapon. And the breath weapon in the player's handbook version isn't good. And this new version, it is technically probably slightly improved, but not enough to make me actually want to use it. So that's disappointing to me. The dwarf, I think the dwarf is better. So they only have one kind of dwarf now, but it is a good dwarf. It has tremor sense, which I thought was really cool. They do the +1 hit point per level, and that's no longer a sub-race feature. It's just a dwarf feature, which makes sense to me. So yeah, I was very satisfied there. The elf. The elf didn't get a whole lot of like dramatic changes from the player's handbook, but there were some minor changes I did appreciate. So overall, I think it is better, and I'm very satisfied. Gnome, exactly the same thing. Very satisfied. I think it is better than the player's handbook version. In fact, for this playtest, I should kind of say this overall because this will kind of frame a lot of these things. Overall, I think this playtest is imperfect, but better than our current player's handbook, which makes me optimistic that the next player's handbook is going to be better than our current player's handbook. Maybe not in every single way, we'll see, but it certainly looks like it is going to be an improvement. Halfling, I was very satisfied. We don't have sub races for halflings anymore. They're just halflings, and the things I wanted on a halfling were there. The orc, this one I'm just going to say satisfied because it is completely unchanged from Monsters of the Multiverse. They just ported it over to the player's handbook, which I'm fine with, but there was no surprises here with the orc. It was just the same thing. And I think there is no chance they're going to change it, right? I don't even know why they're asking about it, because they're not going to change the orc again. So I'm not even sure why it would be a playtest thing other than to say, yeah, it's in the player's handbook now. The tiefling I was less enthused about than some of these other races, mainly because they gave you 3 variant options, which I like. I like the options. I didn't think they were as well balanced against each other. I still think it's better than the player's handbook version, though. So I am going to say very satisfied. And hopefully they give me a chance to actually write some comments here, because I would like to reference why I am satisfied or not satisfied with certain things, or improvements I think that could be made. So I hope they ask for comments. Oh, okay. Well, they're going to ask for comments. How satisfied are you with the elements of the human character option as presented in the article? And then it's broken down: resourceful, skillful, and versatile. And if I remember correctly, resourceful was how humans get like free inspiration after long rest. Skillful is the bonus skill, and versatile is that first level feat, if I remember correctly. But this now tells me what I need to do here. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this survey without having the playtest up, because they're going to ask about things that I'm not going to remember what they are. So just give me a sec. All right, so I've pulled up the Character Origins playtest, and what I'll do is I'll kind of just move it over to my other screen here so that I can see it, and I'm not going to make mistakes as to what is what. But let me just verify that I was right about the human. I think I was. Resourceful, you gain inspiration whenever you finish a long rest. Skillful, you gain proficiency in one skill of your choice. Versatile, you gain the skilled feat or another first level feat of your choice. Yeah, so I was correct on that. Like I said, I was very happy with the human. Resourceful, I think that one's okay. Skillful is fine. Versatile is the one that I really liked. So rather than speaking really slowly as I type, I will type it out and then I will read you what I wrote. All right. I really like that humans now get a first level feat. The generic human was too uninteresting. That's the one that had +1 to all ability scores and nothing else. And the variant human was probably too powerful because they could select any feat. Making the free feat a first level feat is a good solution. And yeah, like I said, happy with the human. How satisfied are you with the elements of the Ardling character option as presented in the article? So this one, I definitely need to pull up Ardling to remember all of these features. So Angelic Flight. So the way this works, I'm just going to read it. As a bonus action, you sprout spectral wings for a moment and fly up to a number of feet equal to your speed. If you are in the air at the end of this movement, you fall if nothing is holding you aloft. So it's kind of like a big jump. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you gain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. And now I presume the wording here, like Heron Gone Hop, would suggest that this isn't using your actual move on your turn. So you would use your bonus action, and then you could basically move again, and this time you could move through the air. And I think this is a nice compromise, right? Like it's kind of flight without being, kind of the unbalancing permanent flight. I'm very satisfied with that. I think that's a good compromise. Then we've got Celestial Legacies, right? So we have 3 of them, and basically it's changing the spells they get. Thaumaturgy Light Guidance, Divine Favor, Cure Wounds, Healing Word, and Lesser Restoration, Zone of Truth, Animal Messenger. And then they get them, the cantrip at first level, the first level at third level, and then the third level or the second level at fifth level. And if that wasn't confusing to you, then you probably don't care about them changing the name of spell levels. But when I talk about hoping that they change the name of spell levels to something else or have them match a character level somehow, that's why. But yeah, the three. I mean, Exalted is probably a little bit weaker than the other ones. Not a huge amount weaker, but a little bit weaker because Divine Favor isn't very good. But again, we haven't seen the new spells yet, and that could be entirely different. So it's hard to rank something when you don't necessarily have full context. So I think what I will do is I will rank it based on the playtest as it's intended to be used, which is with our current player's handbook rules. So in that case, I would say Exalted is the one I'm maybe dissatisfied with because Divine Favor isn't a good spell. And in all three cases, the second level spell is situational. But the first level spell is probably one you could use, but the one I probably wouldn't cast is Divine Favor. So the other two I was satisfied with, and they get damage resistance to Radiant, which isn't very useful, but it makes sense, so I'm satisfied with that. And then what I'll do is I'll use the comments to let them know why I was a little dissatisfied with the Exalted. So give me a sec. All right, with the Exalted option, Divine Favor isn't a good spell, and probably not one I would cast on my character very often. If the playtest improves the Divine Favor spell, pretty please, then my opinion on this would change accordingly. How satisfied are you with the elements of the Dragonborn character option as presented in the article? So you guys already know, overall, I am dissatisfied. I am fine with them having a language. I am fine with them having dark vision. A lot of people, that was a big deal to me. It's not a big deal, but I definitely think they probably should have had it. And then damage resistance, I'm happy enough with that. Where I am dissatisfied is the breath weapon, and I'd say I'm so far as very dissatisfied because I was very dissatisfied with it in the player's handbook that we currently have. And now they're coming out with a playtest where we've had, 8 years to complain about the breath weapon of the Dragonborn, and they didn't really improve it. They changed the mechanics slightly, but it's still really bad. Okay. I think I was clear enough here. I said I was surprised and disappointed that the Dragonborn's breath weapon wasn't significantly improved. A D10 plus character level is actually worse at low levels than the old Dragonborn, and not significantly better at higher levels. Basically, with the old Dragonborn, I might have used the breath weapon at low levels. Now, I probably would never use it. And it's a Dragonborn. If I play this, the breath weapon is the feature that needs to be exciting. So yeah, that is why I'm really unhappy with the Dragonborn. All right, how satisfied are you with the elements of the dwarf character option as presented in the article? Let me just bring up the dwarf here to make sure I'm talking about the right things. So dark vision was unchanged, it's fine. Dwarven resilience, that's poison damage resistance and poison saving throw advantage. The wording is a little bit different than the previous player's handbook, and there's just like a minute number of cases where it's a little bit worse, but it is more clear. So I'm going to give it satisfied overall. I think it's fine. Dwarven toughness was the +1 hit point per level and make it a straight dwarf feature. I'm perfectly happy with that. Forge wise was giving some extra tools proficiencies, which I'm fine with. And stone cutting was the tremor sense feature, which I thought was really cool. I thought that was very thematic for dwarves. Overall, I'm happy with this. I'm okay with losing sub-races if the main race works well, and I think this does. Adding tremor sense to the dwarf, I thought was thematic and cool. Once again, I think this is better than the player's handbook version. How satisfied are you with the elements of the elf character option as presented in the article? So I don't need to look it up. Dark vision was the same. Now let me just remind myself of the other changes. So Fey Ancestry, Keen Senses, and Trance. If you've read Monsters of the Multiverse, you already know how these are probably worded, and they are worded that way, which I thought was clear enough, and it's consistent. So I'm satisfied with those three things. And now let's talk about the lineages. So basically, they're all going to get cantrip, and then they're also going to get a first level spell, and that'll happen at third level. And they will get a second level spell, and that will happen at fifth level. The Drow will get the 120-foot dark vision, and they no longer have sunlight sensitivity. That's an improvement, in my opinion. So I would say I'm very satisfied. Well, you know what? I was probably unsatisfied with the previous Drow, and now I'd say I'm satisfied. I'll say I'm satisfied with those. High Elf, I really like this. So they get the free cantrip, and they can switch it after long rest. I thought that was really cool. So very satisfied. And then the Wood Elf, the standard speed of 35 feet. One thing to note is compared to the other two and compared to the spells that we have now in the player's handbook, the Wood Elf probably did the best for spells. As for overall, you know what? I've kind of decided I'm going to give them all very satisfied. I think the elf works well here. All right, I like giving all elves spells. I like the Drow not having sunlight sensitivity, and I really like the feature where the High Elf can switch out their bonus cantrip. And then I added, it's hard to decide how balanced these options are going to be to each other without seeing how the spells may change. So let's move on. All right, so we're on to gnomes. I already know the thing I really like here is the rock gnome. The rock gnome gets very satisfied. So if you don't know, the rock gnome, basically they have clockwork devices they can make. They've tied that to prestidigitation. I think it's really smart. And I kind of looked at prestidigitation and thought, how would I use this with clockwork? And, there were some ideas there that I thought would be fun. So I'm looking forward to playing a rock gnome. And that is going to make me very satisfied. The forest gnome, I think it is better than the player's handbook version, simply because the forest gnome traits of being able to speak with animals, it's just more clearly done. I just think it's better design. So I'm very satisfied there as well, though less satisfied than with the rock gnome because I'm not as excited about that. Now, gnomish cunning, this is your advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. It used to be against magic. Now it's just on all saving throws using any of those. And I like it. I gotta say, I'm happy with that. And dark vision is the same. I'm satisfied with that. Okay, I said I thought there were some good design choices here. The forest gnome animal speaking trait is better represented by a spell than the vague wording they have in the current player's handbook. The rock gnome having clockwork devices linked to prestidigitation is ingenious. Gnomish cunning applying to non-magical saves, I also prefer. Overall, I think gnome is just better. This is a better version of these rules than our current player's handbook is, perfect or not. How satisfied are you with the elements of the halfling character option as presented in the article? Basically what happened here is halflings have lost their subraces, but the base halfling is everything that I would expect it to be. They're brave, they're nimble, they have their luck trait, and they're going to get the stealth skill for free. Totally happy with that, and this is from somebody who's a massive fan of halflings. So I said, I love halflings, they're my favorite race, and everything I wanted them to have is here. I like having the 30-foot move speed, and if the natural 1 rule remains, luck is even more fun. And we'll be talking about that soon, I think. How satisfied are you with the elements of the orc character option as presented in the article? So I'm going to save all our time here, because there is no way they're changing the orc. I'm satisfied with it. It's fine. I'm fine with it being in the player's handbook, but I have nothing else to say. They're not going to change it anyway. How satisfied are you with the elements of the tiefling character option as presented in the article? So once again, this is another one where I think it makes a big difference as to how they change spells. Because my biggest issue with the playtest of the the tiefling is that I found that the spells that the different variants or subraces or whatever they are, legacies, they call them fiendish legacies. I found that the fiendish legacies, the spells they got, were not balanced well against each other. That could all change, right? If the playtest for spells comes out and these spells have been rebalanced in a good way, then I may not have that concern anymore. But I don't have that, so I have to respond to this in the context of the current player's handbook. So Dark Vision, I am satisfied with that. Abyssal Legacy, I am dissatisfied. Chthonic, I am satisfied. And Infernal, I'd probably say I'm very satisfied with that one. And then the Otherworldly Presence, I believe, was just the Thaumaturgy cantrip. Just let me verify that. Yes, that's what it is, which I am fine with. All right, so I wrote, I liked that the different legacies had different resistances. I forgot to mention that before, but yeah, depending which legacy you choose, you get 3 different choices of resistance. I think one was fire, one was necrotic, one was poison. And then my issue is that the spells were not balanced well against each other. This is based on my current player's handbook, and if these spells are redesigned to be roughly equivalent in value, my opinion on that would change. I do like having the 3 legacy choices. Alright, how satisfied were you overall with the character background section as presented in the article? I was very satisfied. I thought it was terrific. Alright, how satisfied were you with the elements? So ability scores. So putting ability scores under backgrounds instead of under race, I think is an improvement. So I'm very satisfied. Skill proficiencies, I was fine with it before. I'm fine with them now. Same with tool proficiencies and language. So I'm satisfied for those 3 things. Background features, getting the free feat and first level feat at that with a background, I think is great. And equipment being, the same value regardless of your background, I think is a big improvement. So, well, I think it's an improvement. I don't think it's a big improvement. So my comments, I don't think I really need to elaborate on that. Which of these backgrounds have you playtested? Okay, so when we played, as far as I know, all the players just did a custom background because that's kind of the standard. The playtest suggests that you do a custom background and they tell you how to make it, and then they give you a bunch of example backgrounds that all follow the same rules. And I didn't even really go over them carefully because why? Because unless you want them to customize your background for you, I didn't see the point in picking any of the pre-generated ones. So I haven't playtested any of them. And I'm just going to say I don't know, not sure. I mean, I'm fine with them. I guess I could have said satisfied too. Alright, so I said I probably won't use any of these backgrounds now that you've made creating a custom background the standard. As for that, I really like that being the standard. Alright, do you use feats when playing 5th edition D&D? Yes, always. Which of these feats have you playtested? So they're talking about the playtest feats. I'm going to have to remember what the characters had. I know 2 of them had alert, and one of them for sure had lucky. And if any of them had any of the other ones, I'm just unaware of it. How satisfied are you with the elements of the feat section as presented in the article? Okay, so they're having me basically talk about each individual feat. So let me just bring those up. I think I remember them. Okay, so alert, instead of a flat +5 bonus to initiative, it's now your proficiency bonus. I think that's an improvement. And they changed the second bullet point of the feat, so now you can do that initiative swap. We thought that was pretty cool. I'd say I'm very satisfied with that. The crafter gives you a 20% discount on stuff and a 20% increase in crafting time, or reduction in crafting time, I should say. That would be really bad if it was an increase in crafting time. It's still really bad. 20% isn't enough. It's just not dramatic enough. I would say I'd be like the faster crafting. It should be twice as fast, right? All right, the healer feat. So battle medic was actually probably toned down because people have to spend their own hit dice. That was a smart way, I thought, of getting short rests out of it, though, so that people are expending hit dice to get the healing, so it is still limited. I thought that was smart. And then the healing rerolls. If you roll a 1 and you're doing any kind of healing roll, you can re-roll it. It's not a big deal. I guess Jeremy Crawford talked about it being kind of the thing that would make it more desirable to someone like a life cleric. I don't think it would have a dramatic effect, even on a life cleric. It's very, very minor. Overall, though, I'd say the healer feat, I thought they did a good job with it. So I'll say very satisfied. I don't think it's super powerful, but I thought it was well designed. Lucky, I think is an improvement over the Player's Handbook version. The Player's Handbook version, I thought, had some problems. And this one here, I think it's an improvement, but it also has some problems. I just want a little more clarity. Like it says, immediately after you roll a d20 for a d20 test, you can spend 1 luck point to give yourself advantage on the roll. Advantage is normally applied before a roll is made. So this is weird for it to be after a roll is made. Because having advantage or straight up or disadvantage tells you how many dice to roll. And so if you have disadvantage, you roll 2 dice. And then after the roll, you're going to apply advantage. Well, then you should have only rolled 1 die. How do you go back in time and do that? Do you just re-roll? I don't know. Maybe you can't do that. But it would be nice for it to tell me that. Overall, I'm satisfied with it. I just think it's better than the current Player's Handbook version, but it needs some clarification. Magic Initiate, it's exactly what we thought. It would be Magic Initiate, and you can use your own spell slots, and you can pick your own casting ability. The one thing that they added here that I think I liked as well is they let you change the spell selection. I was very satisfied with it. Musician, this one I'm going to need to see, but you give inspiration to a couple party members after a rest. This is kind of, I guess, the one thing you can do after a short rest, because generally features don't come back after a short rest. I think we're maybe going to see some exceptions with things like Musician and things like the Bard ability that lets you get extra hit die or hit points back on a short rest. Those kinds of things I think you still might see come back on short rest. I haven't seen this one in play, so I've got to say I'm not sure. Savage Attacker, people point out Savage Attacker isn't very good, and it's still not very good because they didn't really improve it here. And I would agree with that, though it's a first level feat, and first level feats are supposed to be the weaker feats, and it's, as a first level feat, I don't know how terrible it is. I think it might be okay. So I'm going to say I'm satisfied. Skilled, same thing. I didn't think it was overly powerful before. I still don't think it's overly powerful, but it's fine. So I'm satisfied. Tavern Brawler got changed. You used to be able to grapple with it and used improvised weapons with it. Now you use furniture as weapons with it, because I think the designation of an improvised weapon is going to be gone. And now you can shove when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike. And overall, this seems fine to me. I don't know if it's any better than the old Tavern Brawler. I'd say I'm satisfied. And tough is the same. It's just the 2 extra hit points, and I'm satisfied with that. All right, so what I said is I need to see Musician in play before I really deciding if I like that or not. Please let us know how the mechanics of apply advantage after a roll works for Lucky. Like if I had disadvantage on the roll, then I use Lucky. Am I supposed to re-roll with 1 die? This needs clarification. With Crafter, it's just a matter of upping those percentages. 20%, it's just not much. All right, now we're going to talk about some of the big changes that we saw with the rules glossary section. So let's see. We've got the D20 test. So the D20 test included a few different things. The first thing, which is kind of just a housekeeping thing, is that if you're going to make something that's an ability check, a saving throw, or an attack roll, you can call it a test. This is just better writing. There's just too many features that refer to all three. Now you can just say test, so it's just more concise. The second thing, but you can't rank it on that alone because there were some other major aspects. So they have it so that rolling a 1 on any test is an automatic failure, and rolling a 20 on any test is an automatic success. I saw a lot of you in the comments who hate this. Now, with attacks, it was already that way. If you roll a 1 on an attack, you already automatically failed. If you rolled a 20 on an attack, you already automatically succeeded. So the only thing that's changed here is applying it to ability checks and saving throws. So I have a different opinion than those commenters. I think this is good. And I had to think about it for a while, but I have decided I think it is good. The first is, and again, this is after thinking a while. There's nobody going to be jumping to the moon and trying to roll a 20. And the reason nobody will be trying to jump to the moon and seeing if they roll a 20 is because the DM shouldn't be calling for that check. The DM, and I kind of missed this. When I first read it, I said, if there was a number, like a target number between 5 and 30, then there was going to be a roll. That's actually was out of context. It actually says the DM determines whether a D20 test is warranted in any given circumstance. To be warranted, a D20 test must have a target number of no less than 5 and no greater than 30. So in other words, if it has a target number of less than 5, there's no roll. If it has a target number of greater than 30, there's no roll. If it has a target number in that window, then the DM decides. So here's how ability check should work. So if you are the DM and your player is going to roll and they have no chance of success, you shouldn't have them roll. Like, don't be a jerk, right? I rolled a natural 20. Ah, too bad. Blech. You know, that's like, what are you doing? This should make no difference at all. Also, if the person has no chance of failure, why are you having them roll? So they roll a 1, and they go, oh, natural 1, and you go, oh, you succeeded anyway. Well, then why did you waste my time? Right? Why did you have me roll? Just tell me what you need to tell me, or tell me I succeeded on what I was supposed to succeed. If I'm going to roll an ability check, it should have a chance of failure or success, even if it's a small chance of one or the other. So this should make no difference at all to any table that has a half-decent DM. If it does make a difference to your table, your DM might suck. Oh, maybe that's the issue. The second thing is saving throws. Okay. Again, a saving throw is supposed to be exciting. If you are rolling a saving throw and you have no chances of success, and this can happen, like you get to high levels and you hit DCs where you need to get like a 23, and then, you don't have proficiency in that saving throw, so you can't succeed, and that kind of sucks. And then you have these other saving throws where you boosted up things so high that you can't fail. That kind of sucks too, because it's not fun. And the same thing if it's the monster. If, you can't possibly succeed on something on the monster, that is not fun. So, again, I think the 1 and the 20 are good there. So I'm happy with those. The final thing we should talk about, though, is critical hits, and this is the one I'm iffy about. Because critical hits, as written, only double your weapon damage die. It's not good enough. The weapon damage die, that is really, really undramatic. And the other thing is that the monsters can't crit. And I don't know how I feel about that. Overall, though, the D20 test, I'm going to say I am satisfied. Okay, so grappled. The condition changed a little bit. Speed is still 0, except now your attacks are affected. You have disadvantage to attack anyone except the person grappling you. It also clarified how the drag works, and it applies a new condition to the person doing the dragging. And it gives a saving throw at the end of your turn to escape. I think these are great changes. I'm happy with them. Yes, grapple might not be as debilitating. So if we're making a grappling character, Yeah, the creature is going to get a saving throw now for free, right? They don't have to expend an action anymore. But I still think these are better changes. Like, it's just a better game that way. Uh, Incapacitated, there weren't a lot of changes here. Basically, as always, you lose concentration. As always, you can't take actions or reactions, except now you can't speak and you have disadvantage on initiative. And I have speculated that maybe this might be applied to this, like, as a surprised condition. Don't know. But they do call that part surprised. And normal, otherwise, I would wonder why the heck they put disadvantage on initiative rolls under incapacitated. Because how often in the last 8 years have you rolled initiative and you were incapacitated? I don't know if I ever have. So it just didn't make sense to fill up space unless it has something to do with something that's going to happen around initiative time. But overall, I don't know exactly how that's going to shake down. Overall, I didn't find the things that I knew about aren't really changed very much, so I'm satisfied. Inspiration. So the big change with inspiration is now that if you roll a natural 20, you get inspiration. In my playtest, we had fun with this. In my review of these playtest rules, I expressed some concern that this does incentivize the player to, like, ability check mine, right? The more you roll, the more inspiration you're going to get. So there's an incentive to roll as often as you can. So, you get into the room. I'm going to search the chest. Okay, investigation check? Great. I'm going to search under the bed. Investigation check? Great. Now, I don't necessarily think that most players would, like, do that, at least consciously. Though unconsciously, even that little knowledge that you get a bonus for playing that way might affect play. And regardless, the DM can police it. But I don't think the DM should have to police more things than necessary. And it's just one more thing to police. But I did have fun with it. So I'm going to say I'm satisfied with it. And I'll just write in the comments my concerns. Long rest, the changes to long rest were pretty minor. So I'm satisfied with it. Slowed condition. So slowed isn't currently a condition. It usually, like, things that slow you tell you exactly what they do. Now we actually have a condition, and I thought it's good. And I think it's smart to have it as a condition. This is, once again, an improvement to the game. So I'm very satisfied. Unarmed strike. Okay, so unarmed strike, the big change on unarmed strike is now when you hit with an unarmed strike, you can choose to grapple and you can choose to shove. And presumably those will no longer be ability checks. They're just going to be a function of unarmed strikes. Do I like that? Well, I'll tell you what. Makes monks better. I like that. Makes some current grapple builds obsolete. Yeah, I get that. But we'll see how unarmed strikes are handled with barbarians and fighters before we get too much on that. I like it. I think I'm perfectly happy with it being under unarmed strikes. Then we have the arcane, divine, and primal spells lists. I mean, they were pretty much put where I thought they should be, but until we see the classes, we don't really know the effect these are going to have on the game. Because they do say, although they tell you, like, wizards will be using the arcane spells list, they also say the future Unearthed Arcana on classes is going to refine how you access spells. So I wouldn't go so far as to say this is the new spell list for wizards. So we don't know. So I'll say I'm satisfied. No, you know what? I'm going to say I'm not sure because I'm not. So we'll write that down. So here's what I said. I like natural 1s and 20s being auto successes and fails. Fails, I should have an S. And I'm sorry those who disagree, but here I am voting against you. Not sure how I feel about monsters not critting yet, but I don't like criticals being limited to the weapon damage die. That's really undramatic. I'm hoping in features like sneak attack, you'll add in the feature that it's improved on a critical hit. So let's move on. How satisfied were you with the elements of the D20 test as presented? Okay, so they are going to get into the details here. So I wrote a bunch of comments that I'm probably just going to have to repeat, but I'm very satisfied, and with critical hits, dissatisfied. Yeah, I'll write. And basically, I just said, my dissatisfaction with critical hits could change if there are more features that can add to a critical hit yet to come. How satisfied were you with the elements of inspiration as presented in the article? So gaining inspiration, like I said, I have mixed feelings about it. I'm between dissatisfied and satisfied. I'm going to say satisfied. Only one at a time. I'm fine with. And losing inspiration at the beginning of a long rest, I think is good. That one I like because it encourages people to use their inspiration. So what I said is my main concern about gaining inspiration is it's creating an incentive for players to roll as many tests as possible because they'll get more inspiration. This could lead to slower gameplay. Though testing this, the table did enjoy getting inspiration with the 20s we rolled. How satisfied are you with the elements of a long rest as presented in the article? Ultimately, it wasn't changed a lot, so I'm satisfied. I just added, there was one clarification for long rest I was hoping we would get. Can you cast all your spells right before the long rest ends and get them all back the next second? Alright, any additional comments? I said, overall, I was really pleased. These changes were almost entirely improvements over the current player's handbook. I'm hoping for some more balancing of feats and some of the sub-races. And I hope other things are applied to make criticals exciting, because I think critical hits that only double the damage die of the weapon, they're just not exciting enough. Unless they change weapons somehow to make it more exciting. Maybe weapons will do more dice of damage. Who knows? Alright, and then it looks like just some classification questions, so I'll skip these for the video. So this survey is on D&D Beyond, so I'm going to get this video up as quick as I can to let you guys know that, because I think it's up for a week. So you guys can go give your opinions to Wizards of the Coast about this playtest. This is helping to shape the next iteration of D&D. So I think this is just a much more important survey than we normally have for Unearthed Arcana. So I hope you guys will all go and fill it out. Otherwise, for me, until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D's for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.